Hi everyone, Comic Reviewer here. This time reviewing on Dark Knight Death Metal, The Secret Origin comic review. Now, as you know, this issue is meant to feature the redemption of Superboy-Prime, who was meant to kind of start off as a hero, start off as a villain, and eventually redeem himself during the events of the Dark Knight Metal story. And I think the point about redeeming a character is to have them slowly realise their mistake and start questioning if they did the right thing. The problem is, if you enforce it on someone who's already crossed the line and is not going to come back, then yeah, it's not really going to work. So the cover mainly has Superboy going against the Batman Who Laughs, and the issue starts off back in 1984 on Earth Prime. How basically Superboy-Prime was just a normal kid and was used to comics, and of course had to deal with the bullies, who says, "You know the toll for coming in here, pay up. This isn't your store, Kenny, and I only have enough money on me for the latest issue of Superman." So of course they talk about how lame he is, and even rip up the comic book and start bullying him. We see how one person known as Laurie stands up for Clark, and basically we see how Clark and Laurie were inseparable and good friends, and we see eventually in 1985 the starting point of the first crisis. We see how Superboy-Prime was getting ready for Halloween, and even Laurie getting Superboy-Prime his Superboy costume. We see also at the beach how he feels something's calling to him, tries to fly up, and of course finds out eventually after a shooting star passes that he can fly, and eventually meets the Earth 1 Superman, which of course leads to the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, where Laurie died, and how after one universe was born, Superboy-Prime thought they could bring things back with Alexander Luthor, and him saying, "I lashed out, and I became a monster," and this is him finally realising his mistakes. And him with the other super family. And of course, Supergirl thinks that Diana might be right, that they could trust him, but you know Connor's got mixed feelings about this, and so do the villains, and of course sits down by himself. We see how he meets Krypto. Now, fun fact, New Earth Krypto was against Superboy-Prime. Prime Earth Krypto is a bit more feeling bad for him and says, "What do you want? What are you looking at, you stupid mutt?" And this is where he tries to be his friend. And of course, as soon as he starts paying him, he remembers the first story he read about him. And of course, Superboy-Prime tells him to stay away from Krypto, and threatens to shove his armor down his throat. But of course, they see eventually the other Supermen from the Dark Multiverse, and we see how Prime Earth, Clark Kent, and Lex Luthor join together to take down the threat. And we see how Superboy-Prime tries to go against the threats, and eventually seeing what Earth the Superman came from, and realising that this isn't what he always wanted, and of course realises he can take down the bigger threat by taking down the Batman Who Laughs, who's creating the other 52 worlds, and of course goes against the Batman Who Laughs and smashes him down, seeing what his life would have been like had the crisis never happened. And every punch showing images of the Dark Multiverse, and him saying, "Go on, laugh at me. You're just overstayed your welcome." And we kind of see how the Batman Who Laughs manipulates him and says, "You are the same, you and me." Who says, "Not the difference, heck, yes we are. I try to do the right thing. But you just want to turn everything evil." And of course we see him punching the Batman Who Laughs into a pulp, and eventually seeing how the other supers are trying to take down the threat. And this is Superboy-Prime finally realizing he needs to do the right thing. And of course, after basically Batman Who Laughs promises Superboy-Prime he can make any world he wants, even thinks of a possible one, but knows it won't be real, and it won't have Laurie, his parents, and everyone there. So does the one thing. Gets his anger ready, and takes down the Batman Who Laughs. And this is where he destroys him, sort of now finally redeeming himself, and the other evil worlds vanishing, and no one knowing that Superboy-Prime prayed to the hero and redeemed himself, apart from Crypto, who basically howls to his death. And we see how Superboy-Prime is finally rewarded, how he's now back on Earth Prime, meets Laurie, and decides to go for a walk with her. And we basically see him finally now back to where he was, and even now having a dog. And we see basically how it seems like he doesn't have his powers anymore, but we eventually see Superboy-Prime now having his powers back, and him finally going to be the hero he was always meant to be. And this is the story. So the secret origin is a well-deserved redemption for Superboy-Prime. You can tell in his own mind he thought he was the hero and thought he could bring everything back. And this is how you properly redeem him. I think the point back on Infinite Crisis was that he played the victim. There were opportunities to have redeemed him, but he just chose the easy way out. This is him now older, more wiser, and him realizing his mistakes. So I think this issue deserves a thumbs up. Still good, and still alright. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.